Okay, so when the NPMs go way up, which happens, as the concentration builds and the mindfulness just builds a momentum. So, over time, and as people, get more experienced in practice, that very often happens, and with the flow of rapidly changing phenomena. At that point, you really are not, or the practice is not so much trying to, you could say, acknowledge or isolate or pinpoint what it is that's arising moment to moment, because it's going too fast. At that time, you simply want to settle into the flow of changes. So you're really being mindful of the current of it. So you're just going for the ride. It's like, you're in a inner tube going down a fast rushing river, and you're just being carried along. In terms of contemplation versus investigation, in the way we use exploration or investigation, I think it's more that quality of taking interest in the phenomena that's arising. So kind of looking closely, and maybe just little coaching questions like, well, what is this? Or something, but it's not a reflective process. It's the process of being closely interested in what's happening. I think we use the word contemplation more where it is a more reflective process. We're using the thought process intentionally to explore on that level or engage through reflection some aspect of the Dharma. So, for example, just a few of the simple reflections that we mentioned, and which are suggested actually that people do daily. What is of the nature to grow ill will grow ill, and I am not exempt. So we repeat that, and we kind of reflect on that. We take it in. What is the nature to grow old? Will grow old. What is the nature to die? Will die, and I am not exempt. Right? So that we're intentionally using the thought process as a reflection, but because it's a focused reflection, not just the mind wandering, it actually becomes a vehicle for understanding something more deeply and integrating that understanding more deeply. Sometimes it happens, and this I think may happen more frequently, perhaps. What I'm about to say may or may not be true. But this other kind of reflection may happen more frequently for people with a philosophic bent of mind. And I just see it in my own mind, which is, so sometimes I'll be sitting, and there's just some aspect of the Dharma, of the teachings, which comes to mind. And I'm in the meditation, but the mind gets into that particular teaching, and my mind can spend a little time just exploring it, and that can be helpful for a time. The danger is that it can get really interesting, and you could spend the next hour and a half which is way too much, So that kind of reflection I think can be very helpful for certain kinds of minds who are inclined that way. So I'll just give you one example which comes to mind. At one point I was on retreat, and I was just reflecting or thinking of the Four Noble Truths, and they came to mind. And I was thinking of the third noble truth as being the end of craving. And my mind was just, holding that, and something really shifted in me, because until that point, I had understood the third noble truth as the end of craving, as being some far-off goal. Okay, I'll practice, 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 and then some year, some lifetime, I'll come to the end of craving. But just in that reflection, I realized that third noble truth could be applied moment to moment. Like, okay, we can experience the end of craving in a moment, and experience the freedom of that in the moment. So that was like a little reflection, which led to, another way of understanding the practice. So that kind of reflection can be really interesting and helpful. As I say, we have to be very careful, and I've seen it in myself, the mind can just get so carried away by our brilliant new insights, that it's no longer helpful. Sure. Again, play, and see what's helpful, see what's not helpful. What does NPM means? That's a Joseph creation, and it's simply, I use it to mean noticings per minute.